Hey everyone, before we get started with the Castaway Consultants special rewind edition, just wanted to take a moment to beg and plead all of you for 5-star reviews on your podcast listener of choice. 5-star reviews really help us out because it helps us get found by other people, which will allow us to grow the podcast and hopefully get it to the point where we can maybe do this full time and release a lot more podcasts. So, benefit for you, benefit for us. That's what we call a win-win, so help us out here, huh? 5-star reviews, please and thank you. Now, enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Castaway Consultants. We are trying to teach future Survivor players how to play the game by critiquing and criticizing what past players have done wrong. And this time we are talking about the pre-merge of Survivor Season 10 Palau. It'll be a very fun time. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Stacy, your resident Survivor superfan who knows everything there is to know about Survivor and very little about anything else. I'm joined by my two mediocre co-hosts,
Derek Kupacek, and again, Rewind series. Most of you who are here have probably been around for a while. I have never seen this season before. You get to hold my hand as I view Season 10 for the first time. I had no spoilers. I knew none of these people going in. I had no idea what I was in for, and I'm really excited to get into the pre-merge.
And I'm Josh Wessler. I have seen almost every single season of Survivor. I have 3 left to go. This season in particular, I would have watched around the 2016 time. And now that we're progressing through our seasons, there's been a little bit shorter and shorter of a gap between them. Usually it's like 5 or 6 years. Now it's like 4 years. But basically I'm here to gauge how memorable this season is. And there are a few things that I definitely remember from this season. A lot in the pre-merge. So it's gonna be good to reminisce and go through here.
and if you haven't listened to us before, we are rewatching every single season of Survivor. There's 40 seasons of Survivor. You don't have time to watch them all, unless you do, and then go back and watch them all.
Good for you.
But if you can't, we're here to rewatch Survivor so you don't have to, and tell you which seasons are must-watch Survivor if you don't have the time to watch them all, so this way you can pick and choose which ones to watch. So like I said, we're talking about Season 10. Today we're just talking about the pre-merge of Palau, because we have not finished it. Derek doesn't know what happens in the post-merge, has no idea, doesn't know who wins. So this podcast will be spoilers for the pre-merge only, but before we get into any spoilers, we have one question to ask. Is this must-watch Survivor? So far, is our Palau must-watch Survivor?
Absolutely. 100%. I think I can say without reservation that the Palau pre-merge might be my favorite through 10 seasons. It is a comedy. It is a dark comedy, but a comedy nonetheless. So absolutely, just based on entertainment alone, and based on something that I'm not sure we'll ever see again, because again, Ryan, you'll have to fact check me on that later, but you get something very unique with this pre-merge, so 100% must watch.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. If anything, just for seeing something, and since we're not getting into spoilers yet, seeing something that has never happened on Survivor and will never happen, and that is particularly in the pre-merge here. So yes. I would say absolutely.
And I think there is something to learn here. It's not just entertainment. It's not just a dark comedy. There is 2 different schools of thought between the 2 tribes, and I think that's important to talk about. So there's education here as well. This is absolutely must-watch Survivor. Stop what you're doing. Go watch Survivor Palau right now, and then come back and listen to this podcast. And if you've seen it already, stick around. But from here on out, there will be spoilers for the pre-merge only.
Starting in 3, 2, 1.
Oolong's trash.
Stephanie is the winner of Survivor Palau Oolong Tribe.
She is the winner of Survivor Palau pre-merge. They actually did a double season of Survivor where Stephanie wins the first one.
Yeah, and what I was alluding to earlier with the education is the 2 tribes this season, Karor, which is going to win every single immunity challenge.
And most of the reward challenges.
Most of the rewards. But all the immunity challenges, they only have to vote out one person because it's a double tribal count, so both tribes have to vote someone out. But the reward challenge for that episode, Karor wins anyway, just to add insult to injury. And they're all older people mostly. And then the Oolong tribe is a bunch of young bucks, super fit. And the Oolong tribe works hard, very, very hard. Harder working than probably any other tribe. But Karor works smart. And that is the theme of this pre-merge, is working hard versus working smart. I am the biggest proponent of working smart because I'm lazy. Dad, if you're listening to this, you're probably, rolling your eyes heavily right now.
He knows.
Yes, but my dad knows. My entire career when I was in school, I was trying to get out of things. I was super lazy. I didn't want to put the work in. I didn't want to show my work. I'm like, I got the answer. It's fine. I'll use a calculator. Whatever. I work smart, not hard. And my dad would always get on my case about it. But I think my best argument in favor of the way I do things is Survivor Palau. The Kuror tribe is the work smart tribe.
100%. I know that Josh is our memorability gauge, but I can tell you the most memorable moment of the entire pre-merge for me is a Bobby John confessional. They're down to 2 or 3 people left. I think it might be 3. And he's talking to the camera, and he's like, well, obviously, the Kuror tribe, they just, worked harder than us. And then, he wasn't even finished with his sentence. He looks up to the heavens and goes, nope, they work smarter. They definitely work smarter. And I rolled out of the couch laughing. It's because it's just like that moment in Game of Thrones with Sansa. I'm a slow learner. I'll give you that. But I do learn. Well, too little, too late, Bobby John.
I love Bobby John.
I love Bobby John.
What a good guy.
He's a good guy. Yeah, this season's hilarious. There's something to learn here. Work smart, not hard, people. But this is a fun one. Before we get into it, let's go over the cast. And, okay, so this season they start out, they don't have the tribes formed yet. And they form it partway into the first episode. But just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to go over the cast by tribe. And just tell you where they end up. But we'll be traveling back in time a little bit here. We'll be rewinding a little bit. So let's go over the very dominant Kuror tribe. Just a bunch of bosses here mostly. So on Kuror, we have Karen Grodel, a civil rights lawyer from Ohio. Kobe Archa, a hairdresser from Texas. Greg Carey, a business consultant from Chicago. Ian Rosenberger, a dolphin trainer from Pennsylvania. What? Things that don't go together.
Pennsylvanian dolphins. Their natural habitat.
Yes, of course. All the famous Philadelphia Dolphins. Janu Tornell, a showgirl from Las Vegas. Jen Lyon, the late Jen Lyon, a nanny from California.
Aww.
Yeah, sadly, she was actually the first Survivor contestant to pass away. It was only 4 years after this, and she was 32 at the time of play, so it was super sad.
That's a bummer.
Katie Gallagher, an advertising executive from California. Tom Westman, a firefighter from New York. And Willard Smith, a lawyer from Washington. And let's go over to the Oolong tribe, where we have Angie Jacuz, a bartender from New Orleans. Ashley Ashby, a student from South Carolina. Bobby John Drinkard, a waiter from Los Angeles. He's very much from Alabama, though, originally. Ibrahim Rahman, a model from Alabama. James Miller, a steelworker from Alabama. A lot of Alabama on this tribe.
Clearly.
Jeff Wilson, a personal trainer from California. Jolanda Jones, a lawyer from Houston, Texas. Kim Mullen, a graduate student from Ohio. And Stephanie LaGrossa, a pharmaceutical sales representative from New Jersey. And then, a fun fact, there's 2 other people on this season.
I was wondering if you were going to mention them.
We also have Jonathan Libby, a sales and marketing associate from Dallas, Texas. And Wanda Shirk, an English teacher from Pennsylvania. They do not get far enough to make it onto a tribe. Whoops. And we will get into that shortly. Oh, and one more thing. Every season with all new players, Josh and I always play a little game. I show him a picture of the cast, and we see how many of the people he can remember. And Josh got 3 out of 20. They're exactly the 3 you would expect.
And we will not be saying them for spoiler reasons.
Thank you, guys.
But they're the 3. If anybody who's familiar with the season, they're the 3 you would think they were. So congrats, Josh.
Hooray!
All right, you guys ready to get into the first episode?
For sure.
Let's do it.
All right, episode 1. This has never happened before, and that's true. Like in Survivor Palau Islands, they are all forced into the game with the clothes on their backs. The 20 of them are all rolling to shore. I do want to say Tom Westman, firefighter Tom, he actually wore a swimsuit into the game underneath his clothes because he thought this might happen, the whole Pearl Islands marooning twist.
He's the only one to learn.
Learn from past events. Good on you, Tom. He must be an avid listener of our podcast.
Yeah. So they're all rolling to shore, and Jeff shows up, and he's like, hey, guys, there's 2 immunity necklaces on the beach. First guy, first girl to get there, they each get one. Bye! And almost immediately, Stephanie and Jonathan decide to jump out of the boat and swim. Fun fact, rowing is faster than swimming.
Yeah.
That's why humans invented boats.
6 hours later, Stephanie and Jonathan finally get to the beach. I don't know how long it was, but
they were very far out after everyone got to the beach, and they just have the camera, and you can just see how far away they are, and it's just ridiculous.
Everyone else is done with their introductions already, and then in come Jonathan and Stephanie, just like, hi, I'm the one who tried to get the immunity necklace. Please don't paint a target on my back.
And what's funny is Jonathan's going to be the first person out of this game. Stephanie is the last oolong standing. It's just interesting.
Yeah. So I guess it shows that it's more than just this one decision, but it can't help.
Yeah. And so our winners are Ian, because he's super tall and has long legs, which gives him an advantage, and Jolanda, both win immunity.
And it's not even really immunity.
It is.
It is.
I
But
guess
it's not as
you're guaranteed to make it to the next phase of the game.
you're guaranteed to make it through day 2.
Yeah.
Hooray! And so all the 20 of these people, they're just running around doing their thing. We get Angie and Kobe. They bond about being different. Angie's kind of like a punk rocker type, and Kobe is gay. So they bond about being like, in their real world, they can be seen as outcasts. And they bond over that, but they're like, but we don't want to be seen as outcasts here.
Specifically, Kobe was saying, hey, it's good to have someone that you're comfortable with, but, you got to be able to cast them aside if it's going to hurt you.
No one to cut ties. And then we also see Stephanie, Tom, and Ian make an alliance. Might as well, at this early point, just grab whoever you can get.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Especially when you don't really know what's going on since you're all on the same beach.
And then Kobe starts scheming and plotting right away to knock Jonathan off. And basically with Jonathan, I just, it's hard to say what he did, but I guess he just wasn't talking to a ton of people, is what I've heard. He just didn't really make any social connections with people. So Kobe just like, hey, let's get rid of Jonathan and not me.
Yeah, and it's honestly, it's the right move just to kind of maybe not be so aggressive with it, because he did end up being pretty aggressive with this. But I'd say it's a lot more just like toss it out there, just like, yeah, kind of messed up that he just jumped out of the boat there. Can we trust him?
Very risky move for Kobe.
For a right off the boat onto the beach move, I don't know that I would ever want to be this aggressive, especially in old Survivor when there really isn't any safety net for that kind of play. In season 30 and onward, I mean, yeah, you can go at least find yourself an idol, or there might be advantage getting or whatever that can save you, but in season 10, there's nothing. I mean, that safety net's all burnt up, and if you fall off the high rope, you're done. So I mean, obviously Kobe came to play, it'll work out for him, but
it could have blown up in his face.
It could have blown up in his face.
Yeah, you see a lot of people get targeted as the first person just because they start strategizing way too early.
Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, do this at your own risk, but I cannot sign off on doing something
Agreed.
like this.
I cannot recommend it. It can work. It can, but it's risky. So what ends up happening is on day 2, after they've all been working on the shelter, Jeff shows up and is like, hey, we're doing schoolyard pick. Ian and Jolanda, you are the captains of each tribe, and you're going to be picking alternate gender, man, woman, whatever. And the 2 people who aren't picked are out of the game. Oh, there's 2 big question mark picks. Is Kobe does not pick Angie when he has the chance.
We'd seen them make the alliance, and then he chose not to pick Angie, even though there were only 3 women left.
Pick Angie. You have a bond with her.
And I am glad he didn't, but we'll talk about that in a sec.
And then the other interesting one is Karen has the final choice between 2 men. We have Jonathan, and Jonathan is young, ripped, dude's buff, dude's fit. And Willard, who is by far the oldest guy in the season. Old dude, not very good in challenges, presumably. But she ends up picking Willard, and I actually think this is a brilliant move, because previously to that, Karen is kind of the older woman on the tribe. And if you were going to lose the first immunity challenge, Karen's an easy pick. The older woman often goes early. So what does she do? Pick someone weaker than her. Have that person be the first boot if they lose. Give her time to build the bonds and work her way into the tribe. I think it's a brilliant and underrated move from Karen.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, and I'm glad that you talked to me about that, because, I mean, you've seen this, 3-4 times now, right? So you were able to take this and say, why did she pick Willard? And then you could explain it. And I think you're 100% right. Make yourself not the weakest on the tribe if given the option. And I want to go back and clarify. So you had said that it was a schoolyard pick. It was kind of like a cross between a schoolyard pick and a game of telephone. So Ian got to pick the first person, and then that person picked the next person. So it wasn't just like captains picking everybody like Jake back in season 5.
Jake and Jane, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, this was 1 by 1. So
Yep.
I picked Derek. Derek picks Josh.
Correct.
Kind of thing.
Correct. So that was why Kobe was able to not pick Angie. And when I saw him not pick Angie, this is obviously going right into reading between the lines, because the editors went out of their way to establish that there was an alliance made between those 2. And so the editors wanted us to see that Kobe broke this alliance for whatever reason. So there are 2 reasons I like it. One, maybe people saw them together as a duo, and he was saying, I am a free agent, and there's nothing that screams I'm a free agent better than not picking your closest alliance member after day one and going into your new tribe to be like, this is my tribe. I'm picking my person based on what I think will make the tribe stronger or more cohesive. The other one, and this is more between the lines, maybe Angie was secluding herself and not bonding with other people as well as she should have been. And so it goes back to what Kobe said. We can't put ourselves on the outs. We can't be the outcasts out here. And if Angie was doing that, and we know, was going around whispering in everyone's ears about Jonathan, he was talking, that's a really good reason to cut ties at that point as well. So on paper, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but in practice, I have to defer that Kobe made a good move here.
And see, I'm going to take the opposite stance, where it's like there's very well probably a good reason for it. We didn't see it.
Right.
And I can't really assume because who knows? So I have to go back to like, this doesn't make sense. This is a bad move, but that's just because of the lack of information we get. 1% of 1%.
Yeah, we get 1% of 1%. We always acknowledge it.
So there very well could be a good reason why Kobe did this, but we don't have proof.
Yep.
And I'm going to assume it was a bad reason. Because usually day 1, day 2 decisions are usually bad decisions.
That's fair.
Fair.
Yeah, they're not exactly experienced Survivor players yet.
This is not the cast of Winners at War.
Exactly. So Jonathan and Wanda are out of the game, and we didn't really talk about Wanda because it's interesting in the episode we watched on was it Hulu or CBS All Access?
I think
All
CBS.
Access.
I think I ended up checking both. They cut a lot of Wanda's scenes out because she spends the whole time on the island singing songs, and I don't think they have the rights to those songs, so they just cut those scenes out. So we didn't get to see any Wanda, which is too bad because she's iconic.
Pro tip, if you want more airtime, don't sing songs.
Yeah, that'll get you probably. That might get you some airtime while it's airing, but in the rewatch era, your scenes are gonna get cut. Having to rob Sister Nino and back in the Amazon.
Oh.
Or sing originals only.
Yeah.
But
Even then, I think they need the rights from you.
there you go. I'd probably give them over. But also, just another tip: probably don't sing that much.
And we saw it, that really annoyed Willard and a couple of other people.
Sure. But, you know, that's just one of the things where it could be very polarizing, especially when people start to get hungry or when they're tired and aggravated. Don't be singing.
I mean, you weren't picked for a reason. That could have been one of the reasons.
Also, she was the physically weakest woman out there.
Yeah, true.
Hands down.
Yeah.
And then Jonathan, a huge buff guy, he just didn't have a good social game, is what I've heard.
Yep.
So those two are out. Day 2, they're gone. Rip.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Now, since this was like 15 minutes of the episode, we are going to do a best and worst player of the first 15 minutes of the episode, but we're not going to do 2 of them because that's insane. So we'll just do one best player, one worst player for the first half of this episode. Josh, who do you got?
Originally, I ended up saying Tom, but I switched it over to Kobe because of Derek's reasonings. I am fully on board with Derek's thinking that it was a good move not to bring Angie with you, just because that automatically lumps you into the label of being an outcast. And once you assume that role, it's hard to really shed. I think it was Kobe basically for that reason. Yeah, I don't like a lot of the stuff he was doing with being really aggressive, but it worked. Jonathan wasn't picked, so that's a little results oriented, but I'm going to go with Kobe.
Yeah, I agree with Kobe. And I mean, you already said that for the reasons that I gave you, with him willing to cut ties with Angie when given the opportunity in order to kind of start fresh, that makes him the best. I want to compare his aggressive style of play to that guy who goes all in the first hand at Texas Hold'em. You might be out right away, but you might end up holding a lot of chips, and then people are chasing you for the rest of the game. That's kind of what happened. I would never play Texas Hold'em like that because I like to get a read on the room, a feel for the deck before I start taking chances like that. But it is a perfectly viable strategy that has made a lot of people a lot of money, and it paid off for him. The guy that he was throwing under the bus went home. So it worked. So Kobe is the best because he obviously did it better, and I can't fault him for it.
I'll also say my worst first because my worst is Kobe. Kobe's my worst player of the first half. I really don't like how he schemed too much. And again, maybe there's a good reason for him to not pick Angie, but on the flip side, picks Angie, that is a built-in alliance partner, and maybe you can control your tribe. Kobe is going to be in the minority of his tribe for the rest of the pre-merge. Maybe it's a different story if he's got Angie out there. Can't say for sure that, who knows, maybe that's a little bit of fan fiction. But based on what I was given and what I can work with, I have to give him worst player because I have almost no one else to give it to. But for my best player, I have Karen for the pick of Willard over Jonathan. I think that's a very underrated move in the history of Survivor.
And I guess just to hop into my worst, I went with Stephanie here. Again, like you said, there's not a whole lot of information, and we can't pick Jonathan or Wanda. So there's only one remaining person who jumped in the water, and that'd be Stephanie.
Yeah, just a reminder, for the best and worst player of the episode, if they are eliminated in said phase of game, we cannot give it to them. I don't know why they would ever win best player, but maybe. But they cannot win either best or worst if they are eliminated.
So for my worst, I had Angie, and it's for the exact same reason that I picked Kobe as my best, but just completely turn it on its head. If your social game or what you've been doing on the island has left you that your only formed alliance member feels the need or feels comfortable enough or feels like they have to cut ties with you, you have done something badly. You were also the last woman picked, which, I mean, that could just come down to being a numbers game. You know, it might not have been anything personal. It might have been by chance. But there is certainly something to be said about being taken in the early parts of this schoolyard pick'em. If you've built a strong enough bond with everyone, you'd think that somewhere in the middle you'd get picked. Your closest alliance member did not pick you to be on his team, and I think that speaks volumes. So between the lines a little bit, I can't fault you guys for your reasonings for Kobe nor Stephanie, but it's got to be Angie for me.
Okay. Well, let's move into the second half of the episode, where we'll start with Angie feeling on the outs because she was picked last. And I think for the rest of this episode, she kind of does retreat. I think we do get some evidence here that she kind of retreats socially because she's going to be targeted for tribal council later on. So, you know, there's some merit to what you guys are saying about her and the whole Kobe situation for sure.
Yeah, don't really dwell on getting your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
It does you no good.
Just make friends with the new people.
Be happy that you're playing and not sad that you were the last one picked.
Yep. So we go to the immunity challenge right away, and it's an obstacle course. And in the middle of the course, I actually really like this challenge. There's a bunch of survival gear. There's like flint, there's water jugs, there's a tarp, and something else. Food. Oh yeah, some rice.
I think. Yeah.
And they can bring as much with as they want, but if they lose, they get nothing. They only get to keep it if they win. So I'm thinking for it, I think you take the fire. Obviously, you have to have fire. Maybe bring the tarp too, because just to keep the rain off. And I think you leave everything else.
Yeah, and that's essentially what Koror did here. I think that they could have brought more. I like the mindset of they said, just take the fire and let's go. But you have a ton of people here, and it's not going to really slow you down to take a couple more things, like one or two more things. You don't need to bring like really heavy like rice, but if you can bring something like a tarp, then I think that that's a no-brainer.
Oolong is inept, right?
Oh, Oolong's inept.
They brought everything except their fire, so congratulations. You can't cook any of the food. You can't really do anything because they brought everything except their fire. So then I say the move is to plan on the tarp and the fire, but depending on where you are relative to the other tribe, fire first, and if you need to make up ground, just take the fire.
Yep.
It's all you need.
Yep. Ideally, you want to bring fire and tarp, but
Yeah.
leave everything else. So Jolanda wants to try and take everything, and you have to get it all untied. She's like insisting to try and take everything. Steffi's like, no, we have to go now.
Like Koror has already left.
Yeah, they're
and we're
gone.
standing here.
They're off screen.
We're no matter what we take, we're probably already going to lose.
We should take nothing and just try and catch up. At that point, they should have just dropped everything and ran.
Yeah.
But they don't even get the fire. That's so funny. That's such a long move.
Yes.
And Jeff does not let them forget it.
And like I said, working hard, not smart. They're working so hard to untie all this rope to get all this stuff out, but they're not working smart. So Oolong ends up losing because they're a disaster, and it's hilarious. Koror has the choice. They can stay at the camp they've been working on and building, or they can go build a new one.
Alrighty, folks.
What do you do here, guys?
And I want to give a pause for the audience. What would you do if given the choice to stay at the camp where 20 people got to work on it for an entire day,
And a half.
a day and a half, or go to a new beach where you don't know anything? What do you do?
because adventure. We'll wait for your answer.
The correct answer is stay at the old camp. Let's see what Koror did.
Wrong-o, Bobo.
Tom wants to go on an adventure because Tom is legitimately out here for adventure. He wants to try all these new things, and I can respect that. You're trying to win $1 million, Tom. Not the time or the place for this.
If the $1 million is the focus, this is the wrong move. And we do find out a couple episodes later, I think it's 2 episodes later, there's a conversation going on. I'm not sure if it's with Karen or whomever, but he said Ian and Kobe were also talking about a desire to go to the new beach, and they weren't coming to a decision, and so he just made the decision. Guess what? That doesn't make it any better.
No.
You don't do that in Survivor.
You don't want to be positioned to step up and make that decision, such a huge decision. Also, it's the wrong decision.
Yes.
Because now you have to put in a ton of effort to build a new shelter. Granted, it's going to work out fine for Karor.
It'll work out just fine for Karor, but it could have been better, and it could have blown up in Tom's face
Yes.
real quickly.
And Karen is shown in the next episode to be mad at him for it.
Yes.
So they're rowing to their new camp, and on the way they tip their canoe and lose their fire. Their fire sinks to the bottom of the ocean.
It's like, who is this, Oolong? this is a real Oolong move.
Well, I thought, and I thought when it first tipped over that it was Oolong.
I did
And
too.
I'm just like, oh, of course.
Oh, Karor did a new lung. So their fire's at the bottom of the ocean. That's great.
They try to get it, can't.
Can't get it. On Oolong, Bobby, John, Ibrahim, and Jolanda, they all talk. They want to take out Angie. I'm presuming because she hasn't made the social connections yet.
And Jolanda was trying to kind of throw her under the bus for her challenge performance, as if she wasn't like doing well enough with paddling or something. Yeah, no, all freaking 9 of you
Were terrible.
were untying knots, and Karor was already in the water.
And going the wrong direction in the water.
If we're talking about physical performance in the challenge, there was nobody who lost it for you. It was your decisions that you made beforehand.
Yeah, Stephanie's pissed at Jolanda because Jolanda lost the challenge.
And she's generally bossy around camp too.
Now, you can forgive someone for making a mistake and losing a challenge, but when you combine that with her overbearing attitude around camp, almost everyone wants to take her out.
Which is perfectly fine. Because that's not really the type of person that I want to make an alliance with. That's too much of a wild card, it seems like.
And by all accounts, Jolanda is very successful unless she's a lawyer, I think. She's got that like can-do, fiery, let's get after it attitude. That's not what you need in Survivor. Sometimes you end up like the Andrew Savage, who I believe is also an attorney and was elected leader of his tribe, but his tribe basically said, okay, we need a leader. We need something. It doesn't work out well for Andrew Savage in the long run, but in the pre-merge, it does well for him. Jolanda, this tribe did not want a leader, so you should not have made yourself the leader.
It rubs a lot of people the wrong way.
Yes.
We go to Tribal Council. It ends up being 6 votes for Jolanda, 3 votes for Angie. I think this is a fine move because who else are you going to vote for?
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to separate it. Obviously, we had enough of a block to come together and get rid of Jolanda. There was no way to tell who would be a better challenge performer, Jolanda or Angie. But for the record, Jolanda was pretty ripped.
Yes, Jolanda is a beast and probably would have been great. Granted, she is the main reason they lost this challenge.
Yeah, someone can work against you pretty easily.
So going for tribe harmony, just
Nothing
as
wrong
well.
with that. Best player of the second half of the episode, Josh, who do you got?
I went with Stephanie. Just because she seemed to be the only person like that was actually like trying to push for someone, and that being Jolanda, and it worked.
I agree completely.
And there's not that much else to work off of.
It's true. I agree completely. It's Stephanie.
I had Ian just because I felt like Oolong was such a disaster that they didn't deserve anyone having the best player, and there's not enough strategy going around for me to say like, wow, good job Oolong, you guys are great. They'll have time to turn it around. I'm sure I'll pick someone from Oolong to be the best player of the episode eventually, because this is episode 1. So I said Ian because I felt like, one, he kind of has this number 2 spot, so very Ryan O from Pearl Island, so kind of second in command, really buddying up, very good physically. He seems to have a strategic mind for the game. I, at this point, admittedly, am very worried for him because he's got that tall body type, like that Mitch from season 2. Who's the other one that's happened in the first 10 seasons, but like that really tall, lanky body type. It was a Ryan, Skinny Ryan.
Oh, Skinny Ryan and Pearl Islands, yeah.
So like, I'm expecting him to kind of waste away pretty quickly, but he seems gung-ho and upbeat and ready to go, and I love his can-do attitude, but he's not getting on people's nerves. So I just wanted to pick someone from the winning tribe that wasn't painting a target on their back, and that was Ian.
How about worst player?
I have Bobby John, just because he basically the opposite of Stephanie is he didn't vote for the right person and could have. He knew what was going on. Stephanie had a conversation with him, and he still did not.
Yeah, I am in total agreement. I think because Stephanie specifically had a conversation that said to Bobby John, hey, we're going to be voting out Joe. Are you okay with that? And Bobby John said, no, I'm not okay with that. You need to be a little bit more flexible on night 1. There is time to recover from this. Obviously, he does, but it would have been... It was a risky move and a dumb move to plant his flag on that hill so early on night 1 for a vote that was going for tribe unity. So, Bobby John.
I had Tom for making the call to move to the new beach, which is such a terrible move, and to be the one to make the call, not a good look. So Tom is mine.
I think it was the single worst move in the episode.
I think that's fair.
So now after the first episode, we get into our winner picks. So Derek, you're watching this for the first time.
Yep.
Who is your winner pick?
Okay, so As everyone who has listened to past rewinds knows, I have a couple schools of thought when I think about winner picks. Sometimes it's looking at confessional count. Sometimes it's looking at the first person to get a confessional. So like Mia last season was the first person to get that. A little bit of editology. Who looks to be on either the stronger tribe and in a good position within the strong alliance on that tribe, what I perceive it to be. So with that, I wrote down a couple absolute no's. I said not Katie, because I just didn't think that she had anything going for her. I basically wrote not anyone on the Oolong tribe except maybe Bobby John and Stephanie, and not Tom, because Tom is the classic Rupert, like the big, strong, loyal personality, or like your Sarge or your General or whatever. So not Tom. Now, after narrowing it down to like possible winner picks, I said, hey, this guy James on Oolong, okay, but I ended up ruling him out quickly. And then Stephanie and Bobby John, and then I had Ian and Kobe on Karor. I couldn't do anyone on Oolong. I will say that the edit was very heavy on Stephanie.
I wonder why.
Yeah. In hindsight, you understand why she was the only person from Oolong to get extended time. Ian was good. Kobe is good. Ultimately, I did end up with Kobe, which, funny enough, I would have completely forgotten about Kobe. I was leaning toward Ian until I was deliberating out loud in front of you guys, and Josh said, oh, and didn't you have, you told us about Kobe, too? And I'm like, oh, yes, yeah, Kobe. So I love how they set up Kobe to be in an alliance and how he was cold-blooded enough immediately to cut it off. That, to me, is something where if you go back and rewatch this season and you're looking for what the winner's doing in episode 1, that's the kind of cold-blooded move you need to see from a good Survivor player to take them deep in the game. So either he's going to go full villain and have a glorious downfall, or he is going to take home the prize. And that, ladies and gentlemen, landed me on Kobe for the winner pick of Season 10 Palau.
Josh, do you remember who you had when you first watched the season?
Nope.
Okay, so who's your winner pick?
So kind of the same thing as Derek, where I'm not going to pick anyone from Oolong, except for possibly Stephanie. She was the only finalist from there. And then my other finalists from Karor were Katie, Tom, Janu, and Kobe. I don't think that Kobe would be able to win just because his over-aggressiveness. I think that would end up biting him in the butt. I can't go with Stephanie just because Oolong. I just can't. And I thought that she had, like Derek said, a lot of edit, but
it's almost too obvious.
It's too obvious. That's the exact reason why. Katie did just decide to eliminate her. And then Tom, I would pick, except I've made a rule of not doing that anymore because I think that he's going to have the exact same result as Andrew Savage, which I have predicted in the past for Andrew Savage exactly.
He is a great merge boot, like a first merge boot.
So that's the reason why I can't pick him. So I ended up going with Janu.
She does have a good moment where she's rock climbing up a tree, basically.
Yep. Yeah, and getting the coconuts out.
Pretty badass.
Yeah, and she did have a conversation with Tom about alliance.
Yes, she did.
Not sure if it actually ended up sticking or not, but it was there.
So my winner pick is based off of when I was a kid. That's who we go with. When I first watched the season, in this case, I was a kid. I was in 4th or 5th grade at this point. And I ended up going with Tom, classic Ryan, right?
Yep. The Rupert pick.
The Rupert pick. And I like Tom because he has a confessional where he says, I'm not going to help on the fire. That's a sucker's game. And he's right. That is a sucker's game. We see him make an alliance with Ian and Stephanie. And when I was a kid, I liked that he's he wanted to go to a new beach. Adventure. I'm like, yeah, adventure. That's fun. And now I'm like, wow, I was an idiot. So I would not stick with the Tom pick today. If I had my choice, I would pick Stephanie if I got to pick anybody because she's one of the only people I felt like we really got to know in a good way. So I would have picked Stephanie, but doesn't matter what I would have done. What I did was I picked Tom. So we'll see how that goes.
It's because there was no one on the season named Ryan.
Yeah, probably. Episode 2, Love is in the Air, Rats Are Everywhere. So Tom, like we mentioned, he gets some flack for picking a new beach, mostly from Karen, who complains a lot. Don't complain a lot.
Yeah. It's okay to throw Tom under the bus, but pull a Kobe. Do it subtly and not in front of Tom. We're going to see Karen several times in this pre-merge, be confrontational.
Yep.
Don't do that.
So Oolong does something that is the opposite of Oolong, and they crush Karor in the reward challenge, mostly because of Angie.
Yes.
Angie's a tank in this episode. So that's good. Karor ends up going fishing, and when I mean fishing, I mean for the fire. And Ian, because he's a dolphin trainer, can swim all the way down and get the fire and tie it up to their boat, and they get the fire. So they got Flint.
Nice.
Good job.
Huge.
I didn't remember this.
Pretty cool. On Oolong, Ashley is starting to get sick.
Uh-oh.
You get sick, you gotta hide it, and Ashley is not hiding it. That sucks. It sucks, but what do you do?
You have to be like season 2 Jeff Varner, not to bring him up, but
be season 2 Jeff Varner, not season 34 Jeff Varner.
yes, hide the sickness as best you can, play it off, it's not a big deal, and then still try to make it work.
Yep. And then we have Jeff and Kim, who are pulling a little Boston Rob and Amber, and they're cuddling in the shelter. And this is a post-All-Stars world. That crap don't fly no more.
No.
Shouldn't do this.
No, we can't do it anymore. Rob and Amber got away with it. No one else is going to be able to get away with this.
No.
Do not do this.
Like, yeah, you might have had an excuse previous to All-Stars. Like, oh, there's nothing to be scared of. No, now there's stuff to be scared of. Don't do that.
If you want to cuddle up to, like, someone you think is cute, bring in a couple of other people and have, like, a sandwich, like 5 people cuddling. And you just have the person you like right next to you, but then you have 5 people. It's less suspicious, and you'll be even warmer. Everyone cuddles or no one cuddles.
Exactly. If everyone cuddles, then nobody cuddles.
It's the syndrome in the if everyone's super, then no one's super.
Exactly.
So we go to the immunity challenge, and we're going to have another case of working hard versus working smart. Because they have to go dive underwater and pull this chest to them.
He has very heavy chest.
Using a rope system. And basically, what they do is Oolong goes down like 2 people at a time and just pulls as hard as they can. Tom goes down by himself, braces his legs up against where like you're supposed to pull from. There's like a metal frame. Where Tom rests his feet on that and just goes to town and pulls just like a ton of it. He almost single-handedly wins this challenge by doing it that way.
And he uses his legs.
He uses his legs.
Everyone else, like, if you think about being underwater, people, like, you are going to move toward the thing unless you're bracing yourself. Oolong actually was not bracing themselves.
At all.
Karora wins this challenge, but it's by a mile. The Oolong tribe isn't even halfway done pulling their chest toward
they're
them.
a third of the way done by the time Karora wins.
So it's a pathetic showing, and like Ryan said, another great example of working smarter, not harder.
So Oolong's going back to tribal council, and it's the choice. Kim, who did not help in the challenge whatsoever. She did literally nothing. She didn't even go down to help once. Also, she's in a showmance with Jeff. Ashley is sick, and she tells them she wants to go home.
Yes.
That's not how you win.
We don't find that out until like in the voting confessional after she gets voted out. Like,
it's like her final confessional.
Yeah, her final words. She's like, I think they knew I wanted to go home. It's like, oh, you wanted to go home. Okay, bye.
I wasn't made for this. I was ready to go, so good luck.
6 votes Ashley, 1 vote for Jeff, 1 vote for Kim. Ibrahim will not vote for Ashley because Ashley picked him to be on the tribe. That's a reason to vote for her. She picked you to be on Oolong, dude.
Yeah.
How dare you do this to me?
This is all her fault.
Ibrahim, okay, you've known her for 5 days. Vote for her.
Yes.
Because I think he votes for Jeff. Don't piss off Jeff.
Yep.
Or he might have voted for Kim. I don't remember. But there's 1 vote for Jeff, 1 vote for Kim. That's going to piss somebody off. It's stupid for Ibrahim, but everybody else, get rid of the person who doesn't want to be there. It's fine.
Yep.
I mean, even if she did want to be here, probably is a good move anyways.
Yeah, and the lines aren't solid enough to where it really makes a difference yet.
That's the thing with Oolong, is we get almost no alliances. We have Jeff and Kim who are in a showmance, and then later on Bobby, John, and Stephanie are going to make an alliance. And that is it.
And even Bobby, John, and Stephanie are on like wobbly, shaky ground the whole time that they have a so-called alliance, because Bobby John is like a good old boy who, doesn't want to go back on his word, and he makes his word with too many people, thinking that eventually they'll win, but they never do. So like, there are no alliances going on Oolong.
The thing with that is, normally we say vote out the weakest person who's not in your alliance, but we don't have any alliances here.
Yeah.
So just vote out the weakest, I guess, and that's the sick one.
Go ahead with best and worst.
Yeah, so for my best, I had Ian, because one, he found the fire, was able to get it back for his tribe and put his physical abilities to work and prove his value. He completely beasted the challenge with Tom, because we talked about Tom pulling that cart, but Ian was the other one who's going underwater and did a lot of work pulling that cart. He avoided all the ire of picking the new beach, because Tom was the one who made the mistake, so he gets all the benefit of being on Karora tribe with none of the detriment of being Tom. I just wanted to throw out an honorable mention to Angie for getting the fire off of her on Oolong, but still Ian for my best.
Well, that's funny you say that, because Angie is my best player. She was a boss in that reward challenge and proved she's, useful to this tribe. And she ended up being on the right side of the vote, and she got out of the target out from off her back. So good for Angie. She's my best player.
I think I'm going to side with Derek and go with Ian.
Boo.
Sorry. I guess I never really said, but I only watched the premiere, the merge episode, and the finale.
So now he gets to be a tiebreaker.
So I get to be a tiebreaker when these guys disagree. and I'm going with Derek.
Okay.
Worst player, I had Kim. You get caught in a showman's power couple with Jeff, and then she made herself a target by refusing to really help do anything at the immunity challenge.
Yeah, it's Kim. It's hands down Kim.
Yeah, it sounds like the right choice.
All right, episode 3, Dangerous Creatures and Horrible Setbacks. Katie really annoys Karen, and the two of them get into a big argument. Basically, Karen's like, "You're annoying." Oh, okay. You're annoying.
Thanks, I guess.
No, you.
No, you.
Don't do that.
Don't be confrontational.
Yeah, we've been here before.
Have a longer fuse, and if you can't have a longer fuse, either don't go on Survivor or just expect to lose.
So Kim still doesn't do anything around camp, and she got a vote last time. She needs to realize, like, yeah, if everyone in your camp is a workhorse, you need to be too. Otherwise, you're done.
Suck it up.
And what's crazy, in modern Survivor, I think people wouldn't really tell you that you're doing that. Not as much. They'll just let you dig your own grave and vote you out. They're happy to see you go instead of them. Stephanie confronts Kim about this and says, hey, you're not doing anything around camp. And then, maybe it wasn't Stephanie, but someone talks to Kim about this, and Kim's like, well, I just need to save my energy for when it matters. You didn't help in the last challenge. You didn't save your energy for anything. So, like, she is saying that she's, like, physically breaking down and her body is unwilling to cooperate with her brain and actually being able to do something, but you need to suck it up or just expect to go home.
Meanwhile, Bobby John is the hardest working survivor there's ever been.
Yes.
Dude, dial it down a notch.
Yeah, dial it back just a little bit.
Yeah, when she says saving your energy, maybe you should listen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a healthy medium. Tom, Ian, and Greg go hunting and kill some sea snakes. Holy crap, why?
Yeah, so...
They're poisonous or venomous.
So when we talk about the best ways to win Survivor, we're not actually typically talking about, like, the best ways to survive, but do you want to know a great way not to survive? Messing with highly venomous snakes. They even talk about how, like, there's not really anything a lot of them could do. I'm sure that the medical team there has, like, an antidote, like, available, but why risk it?
Why risk it? Why?
Especially because they end up just, like, throwing it in the ocean to try and bait some sharks.
Yep. I want to get a shark, man.
Wow, great idea.
Yeah, let's go shark hunting. Let's see how that goes for this tribe.
Don't go in the water.
Don't go in the water. Yeah, y'all seen Jaws? So during the night, Jeff gets up to go to the bathroom. Not Jeff Probst, Jeff Wilson.
Although he might have too.
He might have too. And he steps on a coconut and rolls his ankle very badly. And what happened, apparently a year before this, Jeff actually had surgery on that ankle. So it was already not great. So he messes it up pretty good. And he's like, well, I hope this isn't like a challenge where I need to put a lot of weight on my foot. Cut to the most endurance challenge there's ever been. It's the one where they both tribes have like a bunch of sandbags on their back, and they're in like a racetrack, and they have to race around the circle to try and catch the other tribe. Jeff immediately bails out of the challenge.
Yep, and gives his weight to Bobby John.
Yep.
I love this challenge, by the way.
But if I'm ever on Survivor, and
I do not want to see
this. I never want to do this challenge. Never.
Because, yeah, it's very obvious when you don't pull your own weight.
Yeah.
And your tribe's going to hate you. So it's either have your tribe hate you or just be so drained.
Tom, Ian, and Greg are just unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
They beast their way to the end. So Kura wins again. Wow, name a more iconic duo.
And what's crazy is this is one that you'd think that Oolong might have been able to win, and who knows, with Jeff,
they might have been able to.
They could have, but at this point, I don't want to count Karor out of literally doing anything, because Tom seemed to, like, give mental strength to his team, and I don't know that he was, like, marching them, but, like...
This is one of the rare times where having a guy who's such a leader is good, because if you're a good leader, you can encourage people in, like, a really stressful situation, like, yo, let's go, we can do this, we got this.
Just keep one foot in front of the other, let's go.
He reminded me of one of the captains I really admired when I was in cross country as a kid in high school. Just, like, really encouraging, let's do this, we got this, let's kick their ass, basically. Mm-hmm. So, Tom is great here.
Let's give honorable mentions to Stephanie for being the last woman standing and not close. Like, she was one of the 3 beasts on the tribe. And then Bobby John, I think he ended up with like 100 pounds, and they still went for like an hour.
Stephanie and Bobby John were unreal in this challenge.
And Ibrahim was fine.
Like, Ibrahim was fine.
Yeah.
But, you know,
he performed as expected, which was well.
They just ran out of people quicker than Karor did.
Yep.
Because Kobe, like, supported Karor for a lot longer, and then when he bailed out, it just kept the big guys a little more refreshed, like Gary Bobby John.
Yep.
So on Oolong, Jeff's like, hey, vote me out. I can't walk.
2 in a row.
Most people want Kim gone. They're like, okay, but what if we have a challenge where Jeff just has to sit and carry something strong. I mean, it just holds something up and he can just sit. How about that? Like, he might be better than Kim even without an ankle.
Which is possible, but I would say probably don't assume that.
So my favorite part, I think it was Bobby John maybe talking to Stephanie, or it might have been Angie or Stephanie. I can't remember, but he's like, come with me, I want to show you something. And then they like go up to Jeff, who was chopping coconuts. So the old coconut chop, and say, look, Jeff chopped that coconut with one swing of a machete. Bet Kim can't do that.
Yeah, it was Angie. Bobby and I was trying to convince Angie.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not going to stick, but I loved this this accidental poetry where they're using the coconut chop to suss out the order again.
It ends up being 4 votes for Jeff. Bobby, John, and James both vote for Kim because they're like, Kim sucks. And then Jeff votes for James. So 4-2-1. It's close. I think it's the right move, though. It's just a tough spot to be in.
I think it's the right move. Like you said, it sucks, but I mean, if someone, first of all, asks to go home, yeah, you can keep them hostage, but don't keep them hostage if they're going to bring your team down and cause you to go back to tribal. No, that's not going to matter, but having someone work against you is worse than having someone who just doesn't work.
Well, and I was going to say, the other thing we need to remember is that Jeff is still probably more useful than Kim across the board and in most given challenges, even with a bum ankle.
Yeah.
Because, like...
Dude's ripped.
The dude's ripped and can do more as long as he doesn't have to, walk necessarily. It was a toss-up. I think I would have preferred to see Kim go here because I love the old hold him hostage, especially if it's better for your tribe, and I think this might have been, but it's a toss-up.
But I think Jeff really wanted to go because he was concerned because he did recently have surgery on his ankle, and that's fair.
Sure.
Got to take care of your body. So, I get it. Best player, I had Tom for his leadership in the challenge. Catching the snakes, which was terrible, but he caught them. And basically won immunity, so I got to give it to Tom.
I actually had Angie this time because she has gone from being the target on Oolong to being a swing vote that is honestly playing it pretty well. She is well cemented in her tribe. She continues to prove how useful she is in the reward challenges. She beasted this reward challenge, so I had to go with Angie.
Yeah, I'm going to side with Derek just because, yeah, great for catching snakes, but you tried catching snakes.
That's fair.
I can't reward that.
That could have very quickly become the worst move of the episode.
That's also fair. That's fair.
In fairness, though, I think that Ian was the one who was actually like getting real pokey with the snakes, and Tom actually had a really long stick. Like, hey, you're young. Why don't you go?
For worst player, I had Kim for doing nothing to try and stay in the game and just basically getting lucky because Jeff got hurt. Kim should have gone home. If it wasn't for that one coconut.
After talking through it, I think I agree with you on Kim. I had Karen written down because she is causing strife on Karor for absolutely no reason. And if you're going to be confrontational, just don't, actually.
Yeah.
So don't be confrontational and go throw someone under the bus subtly and hope that it sticks. But I do think that it's probably Kim.
You always say action is better than inaction. This is one time where you're right, and Kim was just inaction personified.
Yes.
All right, episode 4, Sumo at Sea. Each tribe has to pick a representative to lead the reward challenge, and they don't get to know what it is. So Koror's like, all right, Ian, you do it. Oolong does not pick someone.
And they decide to go
What?
fishing instead.
They go
What?
fishing, and Jeff shows up. It's like, wait, you guys haven't picked someone yet? And they're like, can we learn any more information? No, you can't learn any more information. So
It's
everyone,
not how this works.
they elect James as their leader. And the reward challenge is you have to build a bathroom. They win. They get the production team is going to come in and build them like a state-of-the-art shelter. This is a good challenge you want to win.
This is one that you should definitely put your best foot forward for.
Yes. And I think both tribes do a good job. Mm-hmm. It's not like James did a bad job. They just weren't as good. Mm-hmm. Both James and Tom are controlling at times on both of their tribes, which isn't good. But Koror ends up winning this awesome shelter. One note I want to mention is Oolong writes on their toilet seat, for a good time, call Jeff Probst.
That should let you win.
One thing that I also remember about this, I think it was Karen again on Koror who was complaining about Tom maybe being a little bit overbearing, but they actually we had a Willard sighting. Mm-hmm. We had a Willard sighting, and Willard said that Tom and Ian were doing a great job in the reward challenge, and they would never let an hour go by without complimenting and commenting on how well everybody else is doing. So even if they were spearheading it, if you have to spearhead it, that is doing it the right way and making sure that everybody gets credit and everybody feels acknowledged and recognized.
So we go to the immunity challenges, which is the classic sumo at sea, one of my favorite challenges, where they have these little pads and they got to push each other off a platform. Stephanie and Angie do great. They win both of their rounds. Stephanie and Angie are bosses. It ends up Tom and Kobe are the ones who win it. It comes down to Kobe versus James, and Kobe crushes James.
Twice.
Hilarious, because James is this redneck from Alabama, steelworker, and Kobe is a gay hairdresser. Kobe kicks James' ass across the island.
And I was going to say, there were two things of note for me. One, Tom, 45-year-old firefighter, versus Bobby John, who is, I think, honestly, the strongest person who is on Survivor this season. But Tom beats him twice, honestly, by being smart. Because he was doing his pirouettes, and he was using his weight and staying towards the center of the pedestal, and Bobby John is just trying to outwork him.
Tom is more than just brute force.
Yes, he is.
Bobby John is just brute force.
And what's beautiful is we're going to get a confessional later on about Bobby John being like, I'm always against Tom, and I always lose, and I'm tired of it. He's an old man.
I can beat everyone but Tom. Well,
yeah.
That's why they put you up against Tom.
Yes. The spotlight, Kobe deserves it because he absolutely whips James.
Now,
screw your stereotypes.
So Stephanie and Angie are worried that if they vote Kim off, the boys might come together and pick them off. It's a fair concern, but you have to get rid of Kim. You have to.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do, force a tie? No. You got to get rid of Kim. 5 votes for Kim, 1 vote for James.
Yeah, it's the right move.
Yeah, bye Kim. Might be the rightest of right moves. Derek, who did you have for best player?
I had Kobe because actually we didn't talk about it, but there was a moment on Karora where he had completely sussed out what he perceived to be the order of boot operations on Karora. So I love that piece of edit giving him this sense of self-awareness and what he plans on trying to do about it, or he's at least aware of he's aware of the problem that needs to be overcome. And then, of course, he absolutely whips James twice in the immunity challenge and therefore earned best from me.
So I had Stephanie. When they're trying to decide who should be the leader for the reward challenge, James is like, all right, I vote Stephanie. And Stephanie's like, no, we're drawing from names from a hat. I'm not going to do it. And she just point blank refuses to get thrown under the bus. Love it. She showed her worth in the immunity challenge where she was an absolute tank, and she made the right move in eliminating Kim. So I had Stephanie.
Gonna side with Ryan on this one. Stephanie works.
It's fair. And Stephanie is the only fully competent Survivor player on.
I think we're being a little hard on Angie.
Okay, yes. Like, strategically, I think Angie's just fine. And physically, I think Angie is just fine. But I still think, is missing a social aspect. She was able to kind of turn it around, but I do think it was more as somebody else's number.
Sure.
And also, it helps when you have a sick person, an injured person.
And Kim. Derek, who do you have for worst player?
I had James because, one, he absolutely got yeeted under the bus by Stephanie when she completely shut him down. Ends up getting elected leader anyway. Ends up getting super cocky about the reward challenge. And even though not his fault, they did make a really good setup for their bathroom and whatever. But they still lost. He gets bested by Kobe 2 times in a row. To lose another immunity challenge is James.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You ain't lying.
I agree.
Yeah, you ain't lying, Derek. Episode 5, the best and worst reward ever. So over on Karora, Greg and Jen also have a showmance. Not great, but, when you don't go to tribal council, you can't break up a showmance.
We can do whatever we want.
Oolong, they're like, you know what, let's screw our shelter. Let's go hang out in a cave tonight. And they try and walk to a cave, and they get lost. And Angie and James and Bobby John are like yelling at each other. Oh, Oolong.
Oh, Oolong.
Normally, I would say that this is bad gameplay, but everything Oolong does is pretty much bad gameplay. Now, you can have individual good moments in there, but that tribe is just bad.
I don't think this would even be that bad. Like, sure, yeah, team bonding. Whatever. Go find a cave to chill in.
It doesn't help. I think it was raining. I think there was a storm going on.
Thunderstorm.
So
maybe choose a better time to do it.
I think they were I don't think their shelter was very good, and they just wanted to get out of the rain. And eventually, they just straight up moved to the caves.
Yeah.
That happens on Lost. Then we're just going to move to the caves. On Karora, Willard's very lazy because he's old, I guess, and he doesn't do anything. So Tom's getting super sick of his crap. Free ride, he calls it. Willard's getting a free ride.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to come to an end because we are having a double tribal council. We're just going to have a reward challenge. The winning tribe is going to go to tribal council first, vote somebody out, and they get to sit in on the losing tribe's tribal council and have some food and listen
and eat in front of them.
And Oolong loses because Ibrahim just blows it for the challenge. And they would have won this challenge if it wasn't for Ibrahim.
Is this the bottles
Yeah.
below the water?
They had a lead, and Ibrahim blows it because he cannot get a bottle. He can't swim very well.
Well, he couldn't swim well, and he thought that he had to, like, untie the rope, even though you just had to yank on the bottle.
Yeah, you just had to yank on the bottle.
Stupid.
Of course, this would have been the one that they won.
Yeah, it would have been a reward challenge win, but, you know, hey, anything. Got to boost morale somehow.
Anything. Momentum. Survivor is a momentum game as well.
Yep. So on Kuror, we finally get some scheming and plotting. Tom, Ian, Katie, Greg, and Jen, the 5 of them all form an alliance. The plan is to vote out Willard. Fair enough.
Yep.
Kobe wants Katie gone, because Katie also doesn't do much. But she just really gets along with Tom and Ian very well. But Kobe recognizes, I don't have the numbers to pull this off. There's nothing I can do. Can't save Willard, because he and Willard really get along.
Yeah, and Willard has this really funny moment where he's like, all right, when I'm gone, you get my pants.
Yep. Willard just gives his stuff to Kobe. That's nice.
And we do get another very strategically aware confessional from Kobe where he says, I'd love to keep Willard. And you already said he'd rather get rid of Katie, but he's like saying it to the camera, I can't change anybody's minds. I can't save him.
Really,
Good job.
really good awareness from Kobe.
Really good, and really good confessional.
But meanwhile, Greg and Kobe, they form a side alliance. Because Greg is scared of the bond like Tom and Ian have, and then Katie to a lesser extent.
And also their performance in the challenges. I mean, if they make it to the end, they will be favorites to win.
Yeah, Tom and Ian are both super studs in the challenges. So Greg and Kobe come up with a plan to bring along Jen and Janu, so the 4 of them have an alliance, and they can take out Tom and Ian later on when it suits them.
Which is the right move.
Yep.
Like,
If
if you can't work your way in, much like Kobe is basically just saying, like, I'm just going to try to survive as long as possible if I'm not in the main alliance. Start working away at that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is showing who has game smarts and who doesn't. Because, honestly, this is great for Greg, too.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe's getting the edit, but Greg is the one who has the option. Because he's got his alliance / showmance with Jen, but no one's really targeting them for it yet. I'm not sure that we're going to get a ton of that in the pre-merge, not that there was a chance.
Right.
But he's the one who can go to Kobe and say, hey, just so you know, eventually, Tom and Ian got to go, right? We together on this, right? And Kobe's like, of course.
Yeah, I love Kobe. He's great. He's a great character.
Oh, he's awesome.
So we're going to go to Tribal Council, and it's going to be 8 votes for Willard, 1 for Katie. Yep, that's about right.
I love that he tossed a vote at Katie, just like, I mean, he has to vote for someone, but it's just like, here you go.
That was the right move.
Yep, 100%.
Moving on. So Kurora actually gets another reward. They listen to the entire immunity, or the Tribal Council. Ibrahim is going. He's dead to rights. Kurora gets to vote for someone to save. They get to cast a vote, and the person with the most votes gets immunity.
The only immunity that Oolong is going to win in the entire pre-merge.
So Katie, Jen, and Janu are the only ones who vote for Ibrahim. Everyone else is just scatter shots all over the place. I don't know why they would do that. I mean, I guess, like, for Tom and Ian, they would probably want to save Stephanie. I can't remember who they voted for. Like, that makes some sense. But everyone else, I don't really get. Give it to Ibrahim. He's obviously the weakest one on the tribe. Cause some more chaos. Let's beat a mother down.
It's interesting because I don't think that Ibrahim is the weakest. I think that he performed very badly in this challenge, but we have to remember that just a couple of challenges ago, he was the physically strong one who was keeping them in the march around the racetrack for as long as he was. Not every challenge is going to be a swimming one, and you're not always going to get so lucky that Ibrahim doesn't realize that he can just, like, yank on a bottle. Because we have to remember, they were going to win this challenge. I think that they should have given immunity to the physically weakest, or someone that they've talked about, just based on, what they've heard, is a very, like, weak member of the tribe. I don't want to say it's got to be Angie, but I do think that giving it to James or Angie would have been better than giving it to Ibrahim. Let them vote their strongest out. It's going to work out just fine.
It's going to work out fine, but I since they were talking about voting out Ibrahim, I think putting out Ibrahim puts chaos in Oolong and might break their spirit.
And that is where I agree that this move is completely wonderful. If you can just cause chaos and, kick them while they're down, that's exactly what it is. Like, oh, we've got this figured out. Ibrahim's going home. Well, sorry, the long arm of Kuror just goes in.
Not today.
Not today.
So they give it to Ibrahim. So it's kind of crazy what ends up happening. So
Kuror leaves.
Yep, Kuror leaves. Bobby John and James, they vote for Angie. Angie and Stephanie, they vote for Bobby John. I don't know why they would vote for Bobby John, but they do. And then Ibrahim votes for James. So we have a 2-2-1 split. On the revote, everyone lands on Angie because they could only vote for Angie or Bobby John. Obviously, James is going to keep the same. He's going to vote for Angie again. Ibrahim's going to throw his on Angie, probably just because he gets along better with Bobby John. They're both from Alabama. And then Stephanie is the one who flips. Stephanie does this. She likes to go to a tie and then flip. And that's not good.
Which is not great. But this is going to work out for her.
Yes, but we don't know that right away.
We don't know right... No.
Yeah.
This was not strategy.
So, honestly, like, it's tough because your plans just got shot to sunrise. So, it ends up being Angie. It sucks, but it's a fine move.
Yeah, and I think that in the first 10 seasons, this is one of the worst offenders of someone getting completely screwed by a twist.
Yep.
Because Angie was completely screwed by a twist. Karor did not know that they were going to be giving immunity to somebody. And if Oolong had known, they might have been able to disguise their tribal council conversation a little bit better to keep the fire or keep the immunity off of Ibrahim.
It sucks for Oolong. I don't hate the twist. I do want to mention, like, the first episode twist where Jonathan didn't want to just get booted. I hate that twist.
I do too.
Garbage twist. I don't hate this one. It just sucks for Oolong and especially Angie.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is completely fine.
It's fine.
And,
Oh, yeah, it's fine as a mechanic.
and it's not the last time that we see it, so it's not like it's something that everyone hates and
Yeah.
they're never going to do again.
But I do feel bad for Angie because I did like Angie a lot.
Yeah, oh yeah, just given everything that she did after the first episode, it sucks that that's how you go out.
Yeah.
But I do think it's the right move versus Bobby John.
So, since 2 people got voted out here, we're going to give out 2 best and 2 worst for this episode. So I'll start off. My first best player is Greg for being part of the majority alliance, but also having the side alliance with Kobe and then eliminating Willard.
Yep, 100%. I agree that Greg is the first best player. I'll go into my second best player, and I'm going to give it to someone on the same tribe and say Kobe. Because now both Greg and Kobe are in great positions on clearly a dominant tribe and can, in theory, control this game all the way to the end.
Plus, Kobe also recognized that Willard was trying to say Willard was a lost cause.
Which was just more social awareness, more awareness from Kobe, or game awareness from Kobe, that makes me feel happy about my winner pick right now.
It's Greg and Kobe. Worst, Ibrahim for blowing the challenge so badly. He casts a vote on James, which, it doesn't work out for him. James doesn't go home, and that'll, piss James off. Mm-hmm. He's only here because he got lucky.
Yep, Ibrahim is the first one. For my second, I have Tom. And it's not because of anything that he did, but it's because he is obviously not thinking about threat management, that his own tribe, dominant, still hasn't gotten tribal council, is already sowing seeds of usurpation. So reading between the lines a little bit, but Tom is in trouble and he doesn't even realize it. And what's crazy is I don't even know that he could do anything much differently, because one thing that I do want to give accolades to Karor, they switch out who gets to perform in the immunity challenge. It's not like Tom is just going in head first every single one and being Superman.
Just half of them.
But obviously he's done enough to where everyone sees him as the biggest threat and the leader, and he needs to do better at taking a step back.
He's writing himself into the merge boot role.
He's painting himself into a corner, absolutely.
So I did not have Tom. I had Stephanie because she cast a vote on Bobby John and then flipped. Why would you vote for Bobby John? You guys have been working together. He's also your strongest guy. I mean, James I could understand. Bobby John?
I'm wondering if she just panicked, basically. Like,
Could be.
You're caught so off guard. It's just like, Bobby John.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. So I had Stephanie as my second one. So tie break us. Stephanie or Tom?
I think I'm going to go with Stephanie on this one. I do like the argument for Tom, but you're looking a little too far ahead for, like, as much of, like, a worst player of that episode.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, don't get me wrong. It wasn't anything Tom did in this episode in particular, but I think I was just, when I was writing these notes, I'm like, I need to do something. Like, there's something bad happening at Karor, and we finally got some edit to prove it.
Yeah.
I mean, other than Karen getting mad at Katie and really nobody hearing about it.
They're just been the super tribe.
Yeah, they've just been super tribe. So I think I was just looking for a negative there where maybe Stephanie is a better answer.
Sure. Episode 6, Jellyfish and Chips. So James ends up lashing out at Ibrahim after tribal council and just kind of like, yeah, you sucked at the challenge. It's like, Bobby John doesn't like that because, like, he knows. You don't have to say it. It's rude. We win together, we lose together.
Bobby John, thank you. This is the right move, and it's the mentality you should always have in an open forum. You can yeet people under the bus all you want when it's not open forum.
And they were going to. But yeah, you don't have to rub someone's nose in it. They know.
But do you want to know what's going to age like milk? Literally everything James is saying right now. Oh, everything James says ever ages like milk, but this is going to, within the confines of this episode, age like milk.
Yeah. Once again, Katie doesn't do much work around camp. and people are getting irritated. That's about par for the course. So we go to the reward challenge, which is shooting a gun, like a massive gun from like a World War II, because this is a World War II themed season.
Yeah, it was just like an imitation or a replica or whatever, and I think it was only firing like BBs or something like that, so not like actual 50 caliber, but it was
pretty cool.
But it was like a turret.
Yep.
It was really cool.
And Oolong ends up winning.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Oolong
won.
It happened.
They'll go on a run.
Not.
No.
This is the last thing that Oolong is going to win. So they get Pringles with Survivor trivia on them.
Woo.
Which I remember these. I remember when these were out.
Of course.
I remember buying these and doing the same thing. I vividly remember this.
I loved those. I don't remember like the Survivor ones, but I loved when they did that with Pringles. Just printed stuff on them.
And they get to go to a jellyfish lake, which is this lake that all the there's thousands of millions of jellyfish in here, and they don't have stingers anymore. They've evolved without stingers. And speaking of, Josh, you're the memorability expert. What is the most memorable moment of the season? And this is one of mine, just because like the imagery of these millions of jellyfish floating around is so cool.
Yeah, they don't leave it short on the like number of underwater shots basically during this. I didn't remember, like, it didn't pop into my head basically for this season, but now that you're bringing it up, it's something that I definitely remember.
One thing funny about this particular moment, my wife was working late. She's a teacher. She's trying to get all of this COVID stuff figured out or whatever. So I'm watching this episode pretty late at night. And she walked in during, like, the jellyfish reward. And she's like, what are you watching? And I'm like, Survivor. And she's like, this looks like a Discovery Channel special on jellyfish. And I'm like, it kind of is right now. This is really cool. She's like, I want to snorkel there. I'm like, yeah, me too.
Me too. I would love to go. So yeah, this is one that has always stuck with me. This is one of the most memorable moments of the season for me, even though it's just a reward challenge.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the game.
It's just cool. So Janu ends up having a mental breakdown after a storm comes through. And Tom has a really nice moment where he's like comforting her and trying to make her feel better. It's like, oh, that's nice.
This is great from a game perspective and a person perspective, because when people at their most vulnerable is when you can make the strongest bonds. And Juno's like, I don't have the strength to make it to the end. And Tom said, you don't have the strength today, but tomorrow is a new one, and you can have the strength tomorrow. So it was a genuinely good moment. And
he validated her feelings and then encouraged her.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, you feel that way today, and that's absolutely true, and then tomorrow's going to be better.
And this is exactly why Tom cannot make it to the final two. And I'm actually wondering if that's going to have payoff down the road, where Janu sticks with like a Katie, Ian, Tom, Stephanie, and they form some sort of new alliance and end up wiping out like Kobe and Greg and Jen. So I'm wondering if that's like some foreshadowing there. But it's also one of those really good human TV moments that you can't cut. So I'm just, back in my mind.
So we go to the immunity challenge, which is a lockbox immunity challenge. You have to make it as difficult as possible for the other tribe to get at your lockbox by using rope and like sticks and stuff.
Nice. And James was in the Navy, so he knows how to tie fancy knots, and he's going to tie one fancy knot, and Karora is never going to figure out how to get it untied ever. It's going to be too hard, because when they try to untie it, it's actually going to make the knot tighter in other places, and it'll never work. Spoiler alert, they get it undone real fast.
Whereas Karora did a bajillion knots, and Oolong can't catch up. Also, James spends part of the challenge working on fixing his toga.
Yeah, Jeff has a great moment where he's like, we have Karora tying knots around the crate, and we have James tying knots on his toga.
Dude,
what are you doing?
If your clothes are falling off, they haven't banned running the challenge naked at this point. Just don't brush up against anybody.
Wear your birthday suit and get tying some knots. And by the way, Ibrahim is also standing in the shallows, not doing anything.
Yeah.
Double whammy.
Yeah. Oolong loses. What a shock.
And again, not close.
So now we have what I consider to be the best move of the pre-merge. Stephanie and Bobby John are talking. And Bobby John is talking about how he received 2 votes at the last tribal council. One was obviously from Angie. The other one was like, man, I don't know. I guess it was probably James. And Stephanie's like, yep, it was definitely James and not me.
Real T-Bird moment.
We don't see people lying about who they voted for very much on Survivor.
Because it takes a special kind of person to get mad about it.
And a special kind of situation where it's relevant.
So a real Lex or Bobby John.
So Stephanie and Bobby John make a final 2 deal. They have an alliance now. Wow, we actually have an alliance? Oh my god.
A real bona fide alliance. On screen, everything.
Yeah, as long as you don't care about the person that you're just throwing under the bus, then do this all day.
Hey, yo, I definitely didn't vote for you. Let's make an alliance.
And then Bobby John's like, yeah, it looked like a guy's handwriting and everything. Stephanie's like,
Yeah, definitely, probably.
Definitely a guy's handwriting. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely
Screw
James.
you. I mean, yeah, definitely. So Tribal Council, it ends up being a tie. 2 votes for Ibrahim, 2 votes for James, because Stephanie decides to force a tie for some reason.
Why?
These
people aren't on the jury.
On the revote, she flips and votes for James.
James goes home.
But why? That just pisses Ibrahim off.
Yep.
Maybe that's what she wants.
But why?
I don't know.
I mean, it's the right move to get rid of James, but why force the tie?
Make them not feel safe? I don't know.
Bonkers. So even with that weird move, my best player is still Stephanie because of the lie to Bobby John and making the final 2 deal. But it's in spite of that one bonkers move she does at the end there.
Yeah, and actually because of that move, I have Bobby John as my best for making the final 2 deal with Stephanie. I think he's in the best position on his tribe from a social and physical standpoint for this final 3 remaining. And I ultimately think that landing on James to go home the first time was absolutely the right move, because I think that in terms of loyalty, toss up. Like, James and Ibrahim are about the same. Ibrahim has, in my opinion, performed better overall in challenges, and Ibrahim is a bit of a meat shield for Bobby John come merge time. So because I think that was the right move initially, and it was the right vote, and he did it right the first time, and I think that Stephanie made the wrong move. Even with her good move, I have to give it to Bobby John.
Fair enough.
I think I'm going to go with Stephanie, just because I feel like in that conversation of them making the final 2 deal, it seems like she did a lot more to make it happen than he did. So I think I would just side with her.
Yeah, and I can't fight it, because, I mean, ultimately what influenced Bobby John to go away from his fellow Alabama boys was because he felt like he got a vote. So it might have been the right move for the wrong reason,
Sure.
And Stephanie deserves credit for that. So I can understand.
Worst player is Katie because she's lazy and annoys her tribe.
I had Janu because she basically threw in the towel and needed to get coaxed out of this sort of really down state of mind. And even with that encouragement, didn't seem like she ended the episode on all of that great of terms. And I think when you do that and you show that kind of negative, somber, I want to be gone mentality, that is typically all a tribe, especially an untested tribe like Karor, needs for another really easy, unified vote.
Sure.
Yeah, I think Janu makes the most sense here, just because if they were going to Tribal Council, I feel like it's more likely that it would be Janu going home than Katie in this scenario.
Because Janu, I think, is also in that minority 3 alliance as well.
Not looking good for your winner pick.
Me, she's still here.
Yeah.
She is still here because Oolong is trash. She's got time to rebound.
All right, episode 7, The Great White Shark Hunter. So Ian goes out and catches a giant clam. Like, it's a lot of meat. That's really good. Tom catches a shark. Tom straight up just murders a shark.
He just machetes
Go
it.
Karor.
And Richard Hatch did this back in All-Stars, but this is a bigger shark than that.
There's a bigger shark, and I think Richard used a spear, right?
Yeah, Tom used a machete.
Tom just like walked out into the water and just like hacked its head off.
Oh yeah, almost cut it in half.
Yep.
What?
What? Holy crap, dude!
And I honestly thought that this wasn't like, because a couple episodes ago they showed Tom in confessional going, "We gonna catch a shark. We gonna get one. I'm gonna get a shark." I was like, this isn't gonna go anywhere.
He's got the accent for it too. He's got the thick New York accent.
I'm gonna get a shark. I'm gonna get a shark.
It sounds a little bit like Quince from Jaws.
A little bit. And then he ends up getting a shark.
Yeah, there's no way this pays off.
Oh, I can't believe that happened.
And so they're like shaving off their like shark steaks, and everyone's like, "Oh, I couldn't eat another bite," as if they were on some kind of all-you-can-eat reward challenge because they've got 8 pounds of clam meat and a shark.
Yeah, can you keep any of that? Like,
You gotta eat it all.
yeah.
So we have the SOS reward challenge, which is always fun. They build a sign.
Nothing like stocking up and having all your energy from food just to have the SOS challenge.
Yes. Once again, Kror wins by working smarter, not harder. Oolong's is too close to the jungle. It's not far enough out at the beach, and they had the room to do it. Mm-hmm. Whereas Kror, their plan doesn't end up working. They put it. They built a sign out by the water, but they were going to use fire as well, and the fire they can't get it started in time. Mm-hmm. So they screw up, and they still managed to win because they worked smarter, not harder.
And this is where the beautiful Bobby John confessional I referenced earlier comes in, because he's just sitting there completely dejected. I mean, they massive letters, kept the fire burning the whole time, and he's like, "Yep, Karor must have outworked us." Nope. They work smarter.
Knowing them, they probably they work smarter.
Knowing them, they work smarter. And just he like looks up to the heavens like, "Wow,
God help me."
I finally figured it out. Like, I might be doing something wrong."
And the worst part is that you can't really get smarter, so you know you're screwed.
So Greg and Jen kiss. That's alarming.
Yeah.
In front of people?
I think some people saw it, but we definitely see him kiss. Uh-oh. Anybody remember Survivor All-Stars? I know I try to forget it, but remember?
Don't do this. This is bad.
So we go to the immunity challenge, and it's a water slide puzzle, and they are given the slide puzzle to practice beforehand. And basically, it's Kobe versus Bobby John as the callers. Why is Bobby John your caller?
This was a really bad move.
He's terrible. He has to switch with Stephanie, but Kobe just, cleans their clock.
Yep.
Just trashes them. Slide puzzles are tricky. There's a strategy for it. And one thing, before you go on Survivor, you should study slide puzzles and how to do them, because there's a very specific way to do it. It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
There is a pattern. I have studied how to do slide puzzles. I would be great at this. But anybody before you go on Survivor, learn how to make fire, learn how to do a slide puzzle.
If you go out there without those two things, it's your fault.
Yes.
That's the one thing I would need to do is I don't know how to do a slide puzzle.
It doesn't take long to learn. You look it up, and it's like, oh, okay. There's just a certain order you have to solve it in.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're super easy once you know how. So Carrera wins again.
Woohoo.
Stephanie goes to Bobby John's like, hey, yeah, we're good, right? We're just going to vote Abraham. Bobby John's like, I don't know. I don't really want to talk about it.
Ooh.
Dude, there's no one else.
You made a final two alliance. This should be an easy vote.
Even if you want to vote out Stephanie, which you shouldn't, but if you did, just say yes. Just say, yeah, we're good. We're going to vote out Abraham. And then change your mind.
But the good old boy can't do it.
So Stephanie's like, well, screw that. Hey, Abraham, you want to vote out Bobby John? And he's also non-committal.
Ibrahim, this was a chance for you to stay in the game. You could have just as easily been, yeah, you know what? Let's take out Bobby John. Let's do it.
Also, this should be very alarming for Stephanie. Just like, oh, I'm going home.
Yeah, but at this point, there's nothing you can do.
And also, not that this is going to matter anyway, but...
So we got a Survivor Council. It's 2 votes for Abraham, 1 vote for Stephanie. Bobby John stuck to his word because he made an alliance with Stephanie. He never actually had an alliance with Abraham. They just had a bond. So was this the right move? That's a toss-up. It depends on if you're going to the merge in the next episode or not, and who knows. Final 10? It's a fair assumption you might go to the merge. Maybe not. If you're going to merge the next episode, it's going to be a 2-8 merge, let's say. And we're merging. Bobby John should want to get rid of the person who is stronger, Stephanie. So he and Abraham... Bobby John's got the better chance of winning the challenge because they're in trouble. But if you're not going to the merge and it's just the two of you, you want to keep your stronger person, Stephanie, because you want to try and win. So it's a complete toss-up depending on how the game goes, and I can't tell you if it was the right move or not.
I think if whoever you felt closer with, get rid of the other person.
Sure.
Because they're talking about merge. They don't know if, when, how it's coming. Just pick whoever you're closer with. If you feel like you're on the bottom, just go with whatever you think is going to stick. I love Stephanie's move to at least use the Abraham option. Good conversation to have, but ultimately I'm okay with the move.
Abraham's gone, though.
Abraham's gone.
I think it was the right move just because you did make an alliance. Now, if that was the case, then I would also say that you should probably be a lot more committed to it. But just assuming that didn't happen, I'd say it's the right move.
Derek, who do you think is best player?
I didn't have a lot to work with. Tom chopped off the head of a shark, but at this point, I think that actually hurts his standing because now everybody wants to get him out. Kobe made an offhanded comment where he's like, oh, it's going to be a little harder to vote him off now. But I actually think it makes it a lot easier to vote him off. So I ended up just picking Kobe because he won the immunity challenge for his tribe, and that was it.
Agreed. It's Kobe.
Yeah.
Kicked Bobby John and Stephanie's ass at the immunity challenge. How about worst player?
So I say Bobby John because he went wishy-washy on his alliance.
Agreed, and he was also terrible at the immunity challenge.
And yeah, he should never have been caller.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
Next episode, episode 8, Neanderthal Man.
Last one.
We're in the end game now. Yeah, this is the last one of the pre-merge. Crore ends up winning a gross food reward challenge.
By the way, Tom beat Bobby John head-to-head.
Because Bobby John tried to stuff all the balut in his mouth at once, and Tom just eats them one at a time. Because, that's how mouths work.
Yes. Bobby John needed a funnel and a plunger.
They end up winning a 55-gallon drum of water for a shower, but Tom's like, we should use this as drinking water.
And he's 100% right.
Yeah, but don't be the one to make that call.
Yes, we'll talk about that.
Now, Jen, who we've barely seen it all this season, she's like, I really want a shower, but I'm not going to fight it if Tom's that insistent about it, which is the right move for Jen.
Yep.
Don't fight.
Let Tom dig his own grave. You'll end up with clean drinking water, and Tom ends up with a bigger target on his back.
Yep.
Yeah, I hope that other people are on your side, and one you do actually get to use it as a shower, or 2, people don't like him.
I mean, by all means, if you're having a group discussion, like, I would like to do the shower. But then if other people are like fighting for drinking water, don't fight for it. But you can voice your opinion once, you just can't fight.
Yeah. Everybody gets one.
Everybody gets one. Ian, Tom, and Katie, they are planning on bringing Stephanie in with them once they merge, if Stephanie merges, if Stephanie survives, and then bring her in and then take out Greg or Jen to break up that showmance. And it's good that they're thinking like this. This is real smart on their part.
Yeah, always one step ahead.
Yeah, this is making my post-merge predictions very difficult, because up until this point, they'd been sowing the seeds of, like, Kobe and that minority group bringing in Greg and Jen and turning the tides on old Tom. But now we're seeing that everyone's kind of aware of where they stand and what might happen. And I found myself thinking about Ian sitting by the tree, talking about the possibility of Greg and Jen flipping. I think about that a lot as I haven't watched any of the post-merge yet, but I think about it a lot.
I wonder, is this a good time for a challenge throw?
Depends who you are on Garor.
It absolutely depends, but is it a good time for... I mean, you don't even need a majority of the people to throw a challenge.
Right.
But if you were worried about them bringing someone over during the merge...
It's a little risky to, I think, try doing a challenge for right now. There's a little... You haven't really seen where everyone's loyalties lie yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll actually give a definitive no, because there are 2 people left on Oolong. By all rights, at a merge, if Karor stays strong, Oolong is easily controlled. So if, let's say, Tom and Ian instigate a challenge throw, that could just be a catalyst for Greg and Jen going over to Kobe and company and voting out Tom pre-merge, pre-individual immunities. Boom, easy. If you're Kobe and you're like, now would be a great time to get rid of Tom, let's do the merge thing now. Maybe Greg and Jen are like, no, don't really like that plan, because now I know about this connection that Tom and Ian have with Stephanie. I'm thinking I'm just going to stay with them for right now, and we're going to vote you out.
It's too risky. So Kobe and Greg go square up against Bobby John and Stephanie for a water challenge, and Kobe and Greg end up winning because Karor always wins, almost. It's an immunity challenge. Karor's going to win. So we're going to Tribal Council, and it's a fire-making challenge, but they get matches, not flint. This is some garbage.
And also, they're not burning through a rope. They're lighting a kerosene-soaked torch.
Yeah. You can tell this is their first fire-making challenge.
They'll troubleshoot this.
Yeah.
And Stephanie ends up winning.
So that had to have gone real fast.
It went
right?
real fast.
Oh, literally when Jeff is like, all right, Bobby John's tribe hasn't spoken, he like gets up 2 seconds later and his torch is also lit. Like, it was seconds.
Yeah. But Bobby John's out. Stephanie wins. Bobby John's out of the game.
And I will say that this is probably one of the more memorable moments from the pre-merge.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. This is another one.
And
if not for the general concept of Oolong just dying.
Yes. To sum it up in one frame, Bobby John and Stephanie about to do the fire-making challenge.
Yeah.
That's where
like,
we are.
Fire-making? Isn't this the pre-merge? This isn't like Final Travel or anything, right?
And Stephanie wins Survivor Palau.
Oolong
edition.
So for best player, I had Stephanie for winning the fire-making challenge and being the only person to survive Oolong.
Yeah, that's about right. There's nothing stand out on Karor.
That's fair.
I will not give out a worst player. Tom does get a dishonorable mention, but I think over the course of the episode, he had more positives than negatives. So I'm not going to give out a worst.
I will be willing to say Tom, just because you've been doing such as good of a job as you can in terms of kind of like spreading the wealth, but clearly the fact that you're a leader has drawn a big target on your back, especially near a merge. You need to be taking steps to mitigate that, to abate that, and he's not doing it. He's saying, no, we need this drinking water. Guess what, Tom, if you're voted out first at the merge, you don't need that drinking water.
You got a point.
Think down the road a little bit.
What do you think, Nunn or Tom?
You know what? If I'm deciding between the two, I feel like I have to go with Tom. Just because there's no argument for Nunn. I mean, I get there is an argument, but I'm going to side with Tom.
And you don't like giving out Nunn.
Yeah,
I don't like giving out Nunn when it's still this far into the game. Like, if there was only like 6 people left, then I'd be okay with it.
And it is splitting hairs. It was a notable negative, and people were kind of irritated.
Yep.
So
I'm good with it.
And I just saw more positives that outweighed that put him in because I do kind of a binary system, and he ended up in the positive category overall for the episode. That's why I didn't give out one.
Sure.
Is he the worst of everyone? Yes, but I don't think it was a bad episode for him.
Sure.
So Bobby John will play again. Are you guys excited to see him come back?
Yes, I am. I want to see him on a different tribe. I want to see him with a different supporting cast because, man, he's a great guy. He is good television. I especially love his like kind of caveman Tarzan edit that he gets when it's just him and Stephanie, and she's like, "Man, this place is kind of a dump." And then you're wondering like, well, Jeff did twist his ankle on a coconut. Maybe it's because the guys weren't picking up after themselves like they should have been. But yes, I am excited to see Bobby John come back.
Yeah, absolutely. As one of the better characters, not only on Oolong, but the entire season, I would like to see how he performs on a functioning tribe.
What happens when you win immunity, Bobby John? How does it go?
What is immunity?
No, I would like to see Bobby John come back. He's a fun character. He's not a great player, but he's one of those types of guys who could throw a wrench. Good old boy, they can throw a wrench in the game just by sticking by their morals and values, which is always fun for me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but let's bring back Bobby John. All right, so we're at the merge now, and this is where we get out the awards for the best player and worst player of the pre-merge. The only people who can win these awards are the people who've made it to this point in the game. So we have 9 people left, most of whom have only been to one tribal council. So this is really interesting. Derek, who did you think was the best player of the pre-merge?
There are a couple ways you can go about this. I think that there is some semblance of an argument out there for Stephanie because, frankly, she had more obstacles to overcome to get to this point. But she has not had almost any contact with the other tribe. She thinks she has some ins with Tom and Ian, but who knows at this point. The best player of the pre-merge is Kobe. I like that. I would never do it, but his aggressive play early on paid off. He was willing to sever ties with his only alliance member. He stayed social enough to keep his options open. He was super aware at multiple points in the pre-merge where he was like, I can't change anything now, but doors will open. And now he does have usurpation planned with Greg and Jen and has all the tools that he needs to go deep in the game. And he even has some physical chops that if he does get deep, can hold his own in a do-or-die situation and individual immunity.
See, I'm going to go with Stephanie because she basically won a season of Survivor already. She had by far the most strategy of anyone on Oolong for sure. Seems like everyone seems to like her. She's a physical beast, and none of those challenge losses were her fault. It's everyone else around her. That just sucks. What can you do? It's like you're an all-star on a football team, but everyone else is a high school football player, and you're an NFL player. You're still not going to win. Stephanie was great. She survived all this garbage. She made an alliance. She has the best move of the season so far. I'm not going to hold the fact that she's on Oolong against her because it's really not her fault. So Stephanie is the best player of the pre-merge.
So my one response to it is that the best move of the pre-merge was the result of a bad move where she forced a tie where she shouldn't have wanted to, and then immediately next episode forced another completely unnecessary tie, which I do think reveals some holes in her game. Sure. Whereas, I don't think that Kobe has made a genuine, bona fide mistake yet. He hasn't been given as many opportunities to make a mistake, but a perfect score is a perfect score.
I'm actually going to go with Kobe, just because I don't think there actually was that much strategy from Stephanie's side. It was more just she was surviving. Until you got to basically the end there, where she made a final 2 deal with Bobby John. Yeah, she put herself on the right side of the vote most of the time, unless she was tying it. But like you said earlier in this podcast, there's essentially no alliances happening. So I don't think I can give it to her because of that. And like Derek said, I think the only knock on Kobe can be over-aggressive, which it seems like he's pulled back a little bit more on. He's been a beast in challenges along with strategizing.
Worst player?
Oh, this one's so hard.
Because you can't choose anyone who's eliminated.
One, it's definitely not Stephanie.
Right.
It's definitely not Stephanie, so it needs to be someone on Karor. Well, we know 2 people on Karor. Genuinely, we know 2 people. We know Kobe and we know Tom. We know a little bit about Ian and even less about everybody else. I'm going to say Katie, just because there are multiple people who are kind of irritated with her work ethic, and she is younger and she should be more sprightly and more spry than, say, a Karen. Karen is the only other option because she became confrontational with Katie the one time, but seems to have been under control since then, whereas Katie's sort of angering, frustrating behavior has spanned multiple episodes. But I'm going to be honest, I don't know enough to say this with a ton of confidence.
I'll say that Karen at least has that one move in the first episode where she picked Willard.
That's fair.
And
That's
paid
something
off her
tangible.
for sure.
Something.
Whereas Katie has done nothing good besides getting to the majority lines, which is good. But she just has annoyed everyone, and a lot of people don't like her, and she's lazy, and that's all we can do with what I got. So it's Katie.
Yeah, and we're not even saying that Katie's a bad Survivor player.
She's just lazy.
Yeah.
Now, is there any argument for people who had those other bad highlights? So, like, Janu and being, like, super down in the dumps for that one day. I know it was only one time. Or, like, Greg and Jen for being in a showman's.
Or Tom for being too much of a leader.
I was thinking about, like, let's make a hot take and say Tom, because he is in prime position for merge boot if he does not win immunity. But just like I can't give Rupert worst player of pre-merge in Pearl Islands, I can't give Tom worst for right now. I thought about Janu, but then I remembered that, after her really bad moment, she was a part of the immunity challenge where Kobe was caller, and she was in the water shifting the pegs around, and like she still was like, you know, getting really tired and was winded, and Jeff was kind of calling her on it like Janu looks beat. But she did persevere past it, and we didn't hear anything else about it. If there had been a second segment dedicated to her being down in the dumps, I would say Janu, just because of how much she skidded out. But for right now, I'll say it's an isolated incident with foreshadowing for maybe a quit or a please vote me out down the road.
What about, so just to follow up one more, like, Jen, just because, like I said, the showman's, and the ties broken between her and Greg because Greg has actually, like, formed a secondary,
I'm assuming
alliance.
Jen has talked to Greg about these schemes and plots.
And Greg has said, like, me and Jen
Gotcha.
will go with you.
So Jen's actually in a great spot going into the pre-merge. We haven't seen a lot from her, but she and Greg are positioned very well to kind of take the next step wherever they want to go. So I can't give it to Jen.
Okay. I'm good with Katie then.
Yep.
So let's talk about our winner picks, where we're at with our winner picks. All three of us are still in the game. We're all still here. We're not allowed to switch. We're stuck. But if you could switch at the merge, who would you switch to, if anybody?
I'll start because mine's really easy. I have Kobe, and I'm going to stick with Kobe. I think he's as well positioned as anyone else. I think that other people who are in a good spot strategically, Greg and Jen, we already touched on. I think Stephanie has a lot of options coming over with Tribal Council experience into an untested Karor. So it might seem obvious that she'll go next, or that she could go next, but I think she has options. But ultimately, I'm comfortable where I'm at with Kobe. Good strategic game, good flexibility, good at it, love it.
Yeah, I would switch to Kobe if I could. Kobe has just shown the most strategic chops across the board. Socially solid, physically good. Going into the merge, he's in potentially a great spot. Things could break against him, but I just think he's the best player on Karor for sure, and he's set up well at this point.
Yeah, he's set up well. I think that's the right choice. But I'd be interested also in like an Ian, just because he seems to be in that like a good solid group, and is more of like a little bit more of like a sneaky pick. Even though like he hasn't had a whole lot of visibility, it seems like he's still smart enough to be able to pull it off.
And Ian had that confessional that has me wondering: is Kobe just gonna be this really smart, really self-aware player who breaks in the wrong direction at the merge, as you just said, Ryan? Because Greg and Jen decide to go with Tom, Ian, and maybe Stephanie sides with them. And if that's the case, then Ian, I think, is the right choice in that group to win. And especially because of that late pre-merge confessional. So Ian is a perfectly valid option to switch to.
But across the board, are we all switching to Kobe?
Yeah,
or
yes.
staying with Kobe in Derek's case?
Yep.
But we can't. We're stuck.
Whoops.
Oh, darn. I wish I wasn't stuck with Kobe.
So anything else you guys want to talk about? Thoughts so far going into the merge? Anything else you want to say?
All I have is that this pre-merge was funny, but I also find like other people's pain and suffering on reality TV, as long as it's not like actual bodily harm or anything like that, is pretty funny. And because it was ineptitude, most of it was self-inflicted. Like, shot yourself in the foot, twisted your other ankle, and then proceeded not to use your brain after you were physically hampered. This was a perfect storm. They got hit by 3 hurricanes. Stephanie came out as the only survivor. It is a seasoned survivor in and of itself. Everyone should watch this pre-merge, especially if they have a similar sense of humor to me.
Yeah, and it makes you excited for the post-merge too, just because it's like we don't know so much about Karor. Like we know a couple of the personalities, but how is this gonna go? And especially if you just toss an extra +1 in there. And I will also say, I do know of like a memorable moment that is coming up here in the merge episode that I'm excited for too.
Derek, Anything you want to say about the weather report?
There's been some rain. But that's pretty much it. Venomous snakes, never good.
Probably
And-
stick away from those. Yeah, there's no reason to go near them.
Yeah. Sharks, that's pretty spooky. Coconut trip mines. So, stay away from those. But no, nothing really of note. It didn't seem like that hard of a season from like a climate or weather standpoint.
They just that
Like,
one bad storm.
Yeah, maybe middle of the road, one bad storm, which plenty of seasons have had
More
the
than that.
one bad storm.
And finally, last thing is Josh is our memorability consultant. He judges what is the most memorable moment of the season. We're halfway through. Josh, what would you say is your most memorable moment so far throughout the pre-merge?
I do like the suggestion of the jellyfish reward, but I do think I'm gonna land on the fire making challenge at the final tribal of Oolong.
That's absolutely fair. The Bobby John Stephanie fire making, too short. I like that they've changed the fire making in the future, but I think Josh, you're right on the money with that one. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
No.
I'm good.
All right, so next time we're going to be talking about the post-merge of Survivor Palau. That'll be fun. We'll see how that goes. Derek still has no idea who's going to win this one.
Yep.
That's exciting.
Absolutely nothing.
All right, this has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.